A homeowner in Northeast D.C. who says a squatter has taken over her short-term rental. But that alleged squatter claims she's a tenant with rights.
So she got my car towed last night, y'all. What's up, y'all? And guess what? I still ain't going nowhere. But this morning when she got up, when she was leaving out, she did turn the light back on in the room. She came back and she just shut everything off. My mama on my hood, bitch, is sick. And I'm still here.
When people do the most, I do the analysis. Let's go. If you've been online lately, you've probably seen this story about a squatter in Washington, D.C. being escorted out by the sheriff department after months of legal back and forth. The squatter is a renter named Sadija Romero who recently checked into an Airbnb in Washington, D.C., but refused to check out. That is, until the law got involved. Let's watch. A lot of people don't even know the difference between a squatter, a tenant, and a house guest. And that confusion is exactly how all the chaos began. The DC case I'm covering today is lawful, but it's also frustrating, and the homeowner did everything by the book. She filed the proper notices, she went through housing court, and she waited for the sheriff department to arrive. Oh, but it took time. It cost her money, and it caused a lot of stress. But legally, it's how the system is designed to work. The frustration is not simply because the laws exist, it's that law-abiding homeowners bear the entire burden while someone else lives rent-free.
This isn't the first time the so-called unwanted guest has refused to leave a property.
I found court records revealing that Romero stayed in multiple properties in and around D.C. rent-free for months while they went through the eviction process. Court records show Sadija Romero faced eviction from 2 other D.C. properties before booking Roshane Douglas's Airbnb nearly a year ago. I reviewed the records with real estate attorney Rich Bianco.
Scrolling down the docket here, she knows what she's doing. So this isn't the first rodeo.
Court records show that in October 2021, she had a year lease at the Jameson at Dakota Apartments. Those owners also filed a suit against Romero. It shows she stayed months past the end of her lease and did not pay anything between May 2022 and January 2023.
Fortunately for this DC homeowner, she regained occupancy of her property, and the freeloading squatter is free to go run game at a different address.
5 days after she was evicted from the Jameson, records show she moved into Avanoma. She paid 1 month's rent and owes them nearly $50,000. The property tried to evict her multiple times, but there was a fire, which I confirmed with DC Fire and DMS started in her unit while she was there.
ABC 7 News sat down with Romero for an extended interview after the eviction, and here's what she had to say.
Avanoma is the one showing that you were in the process of being evicted for paying 1 month's rent when you were there for 13.
So no, that would not be accurate.
Again, court documents show Romero filed a motion to delay the eviction, this time citing the fire and saying insurance needed to see the damage in the unit. She booked the Airbnb as she was getting evicted from that property.
Well, good riddance, Miss Romero. No one's sad to see you go. Now let's move on to Texas, shall we? While that DC squatter has been successfully booted out of the homeowner's property, we have another case where in Texas, there's a quote-unquote friend who has overstayed her welcome, and she says she lives there now, and she ain't going nowhere.
Kendrick, I guess he didn't want to come back in the house. He was outside. And of course, you know, she tried to meet them outside so that she could give them their story. This time it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 officers and the lieutenant. I was like, listen, I record 24/7. I am recording 24/7. And I said, and besides that, she has cameras all around. Came over to me. He was like, well, how can we help you? I was like, what you mean? How could you help me? He He was like, I mean, do you like to stay like in this devaluation or whatever? I was like, no. I was like, who would?
The woman is currently living inside her friend's home, refusing to leave, and she's documenting via Facebook Live the so-called harassment she's been receiving.
But this morning when she got up, when she was leaving out, she did turn the light back on in the room. Everything was fine. Then around 1-something, like 1:10, 1:11, she came back and she just shut everything off. she shut everything off.
Now, this story hasn't made it to mainstream media as of yet, but some content creators have been covering the story. And one YouTube creator who goes by the name Lupac Baby recently sat down for an interview with a Texas homeowner who gives her account about how this residential nightmare got started. I'll leave a link in the description so you can watch that interview later. Texas squatter Christine Davis live streams several times a day on her own Facebook channel while she boldly antagonizes the homeowner. And her social media supporters encourage her to keep on keeping on. Let's listen in.
Y'all see that? Y'all see that shit? Y'all see that bitch? What's up, y'all? And guess what? I still ain't going nowhere. She got my car, took it. I guess that's why she's going outside. She got my car towed last night, y'all. But it's all good, because guess what? She gonna pay for it on my mama. On my mama. On my mama. On my hood. My mama on my hood. Bitch is sick. And I'm still here. What's up, y'all? We live.
Both stories have sparked outrage, and people are asking the same question. How is this even legal? Let's clear up the biggest myth first. A squatter is not just somebody living in your house. Legally, squatting refers to occupying property without permission and, in rare cases, attempting to gain ownership through adverse possession. But there are viral squatter cases today that are not adverse possession cases at all. They're usually one of three things. It's a guest who overstayed their welcome, it's an informal tenant with no lease, or it's somebody exploiting tenant protection. So where did these laws come from? Well, let me say this. They weren't created for us. If you know, you know. Squatter and tenant protection laws trace back to English common law, adopted in the U.S. during the colonial era. You know, for the people like Christopher Columbus. And they were created for practical reasons. The key idea behind the tenant protection laws was stability. These laws assume good faith on both sides. But that assumption no longer holds in every case. Let's talk about how a guest becomes a legal occupant. This is where things get uncomfortable. In many states, including D.C. and Texas, once someone has lived in your home long enough, they may gain occupancy rights, even without a lease, without any type of a written agreement, and even if they're not paying you rent. The courts consider a lot of factors when determining if a guest is now a tenant, specifically the length of stay, and it's anywhere between 14 and 30 days. Do they have their personal belongings in the home? Are they receiving mail at your address? Are they using your address as their own residence? And very importantly, have you as the homeowner allowed continued occupancy of the guest? Because once that threshold is crossed, homeowners are legally prohibited from moving them without a court order. I know this sucks, and I'm sure you might want to weigh the pros and cons of just pulling them out by their heels, but legally, you can't even change the locks. You can't toss their belongings out, and no, you cannot legally cut off the utilities. This is where abuse enters the picture, because squatters know the laws very well. They also know that the local police is not going to get involved to help you kick them out.
And I was like, but I'm telling you, once I leave, she's going to lock me out. She's going to lock me out and my stuff is here or whatever, right? He was like, no, she's not. I was like, Mr. Lieutenant, sir, I was like, you don't understand. This girl swear that she's above the law. She's going to lock me out.
Social media is encouraging this woman to continue with the shenanigans. That's zero accountability on her part. And listen, I understand that some people use these laws as a temporary shield against homelessness, but others use them as a strategy. And let's just be honest about why we're seeing more and more of this. Because housing costs are rising. Eviction laws favor process over speed, so nobody's getting kicked out anytime soon. Social media teaches people how to game the system. They know police departments are hands off and the courts are backlogged. When desperation meets legal loopholes, abuse follows. And that's exactly what we're seeing here. The problem is when legal protections become permission for squatters to squat. Now, two things can be true at the same time. People deserve housing security, and homeowners deserve control over their property. But laws meant to prevent cruelty should never reward dishonesty. That's the real danger. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and share it with someone else who can use this message. Leave a comment down below letting me know your thoughts about these squatters. We can continue the conversation there.